Captain Li Juan stood at the observation deck of the Earth Defense Corps' cruiser Harmony, watching the stars drift past in the endless black of space. 7 years had passed since that day, but he still remembered every detail like it happened yesterday. The memory always came back when he looked out at these same stars. It was supposed to be a routine patrol mission near the outer rim of human space. Nothing exciting ever happened out there. Just empty space, distant planets, and the occasional asteroid field. Juan had been captain for only 2 years then, still eager to prove himself worthy of commanding one of Earth's finest ships. His crew was small, but skilled. Dr. Park Minji served as their medical officer and xenobiologist. She was brilliant with alien anatomy and had saved more lives than anyone could count. Engineer Kim Do-yoon kept their ship running smoothly, fixing problems before they became disasters. The rest of the crew were good people, the kind you could trust with your life in the depths of space. That morning started like any other. Ji-won was reviewing supply reports when the proximity alarms began screaming through the ship. Something had appeared on their sensors, moving fast and erratic. "Captain, we have an unknown vessel approaching," called out Lieutenant Seo Jinho from the navigation station. His voice carried a note of concern that made Ji-won sit up straighter. On screen, Ji-won ordered, moving to stand behind the pilot's chair. The main display showed a ship unlike anything in Earth's databases. It was sleek and angular, covered in dark metal that seemed to absorb light. But something was wrong with it. Smoke trailed from several hull breaches, and it was tumbling slowly as it drifted through space. "It's damaged, sir," reported Communications Officer Han Soyang. "I'm detecting life signs, but they're weak. The ship appears to be losing power." Guan felt his stomach tighten. First contact protocols were clear about approaching unknown alien vessels. Earth Command wanted all encounters reported immediately, with strict orders to maintain distance until backup arrived. But looking at that dying ship, Gi-won knew there wasn't time for protocols. Dr. Park prepared the medical bay for possible survivors. He ordered, "Kim Do-yeon, get a rescue team ready. We're going to bring them aboard." "Sir, regulations state that we should contact Earth Command first," Lieutenant Seo reminded him quietly. Juan nodded. He knew the rules as well as anyone. By the time they respond, whoever is on that ship will be dead. "I won't let people die while we wait for permission to help them." The rescue operation took 3 hours. The alien ship was falling apart. Around them as Kim Do-yeon and his team worked to extract the survivor. There was only one, found unconscious, in what appeared to be an escape pod built into the ship's core. When they brought her aboard, Dr. Park immediately began her examination. The alien was humanoid, but clearly not human. Her skin had a pale blue tint, and her hair was silver like starlight. She was tall and lean, with angular features that spoke of a proud heritage. Most striking were her eyes, which opened during the examination to reveal a deep purple color unlike anything on Earth. "She's young," Dr. Park reported to Juan in the medical bay. "Based on bone density and other factors, I'd guess she's equivalent to a human teenager, maybe 16 or 17 years old." The alien girl listened to their conversation with obvious intelligence, though she remained silent. When Dr. Park finished her medical scan, the girl finally spoke. "I understand your words," she said in accented but clear English. "Your translation devices are crude but functional." Gi-won stepped forward slowly, keeping his hands visible and his voice calm. "I'm Captain Lee Guan of the Earth Defense Corps. You're safe now. Can you tell us your name?" The girl studied him for a long moment, as if measuring his worth. "I am Valara of the Catherian Empire. I am nearly of age human." The name Catherian made several crew members exchange worried glances. Even at the too edge of human space, rumors traveled fast. The Catherians were known as fierce warriors, a proud species that conquered other races and absorbed them into their empire. They had never made direct contact with humanity, but the stories were not encouraging. "What happened to your ship?" Guan asked gently. Valara's expression darkened. "My trial of adulthood was judged a failure by the War Council. They damaged my ship and sent me into exile." "What did you do wrong?" Dr. Park asked, her natural curiosity overcoming diplomatic caution. I showed weakness, Valera replied bitterly. During my trial, I was supposed to lead a raid against a mining colony. But when I arrived, I found children among the workers. I asked questions instead of attacking. I wondered why we needed to hurt innocent people to prove our strength. The medical bay fell silent. Guan felt something shift in his chest, a recognition of something familiar. And that was considered failure? Curiosity is weakness. Questions are doubt. A true Catherian acts with certainty and strength. Valara's voice carried the weight of lessons beaten into her since childhood. I am defective. That is why I am here, dying slowly in space. But she wasn't dying now. Over the following days, as the Harmony continued its patrol, Valara began to recover. Dr. Park tended to her injuries while Kim Do-yeon helped repair some of her damaged equipment. More importantly, the crew began to talk with her. They shared meals in the small dining area. Valara had never eaten with others before, she told them. Catherian youth ate alone until they proved themselves worthy of adult company. She was fascinated by their casual conversations, the way they disagreed without fighting, the way they helped each other without expecting payment. Why do you treat me with kindness? She asked Yuan one evening as they watched the stars through the observation deck windows. I am your enemy. My people would conquer yours without hesitation. Giwan considered his answer carefully. Guess you're not your people, you're Valara. You're young, you're lost, and you need help. That's enough for us. But I am nearly of age, she protested. Soon I will be adult, responsible for my own actions. Age isn't just about years, Dr. Park said, joining their conversation. It's about wisdom, compassion, understanding. These things take time to develop. Over the weeks that followed, Valara learned about human concepts that had no equivalent in Catherian culture. Second chances, forgiveness, the idea that strength could come from helping others instead of dominating them. She watched Kim Do-yeon spend hours teaching a junior engineer. It's not because he had to, but because he wanted the younger person to succeed. She saw Dr. Park save the life of a crew member who had made a serious mistake, then help him learn from his error instead of punishing him. She observed Giwan make decisions not based on what would make him look strong, but on what would keep his crew safe and happy. Your people are strange, Captain, Valara said during their final week together. You gain nothing from kindness, yet you give it freely. We gain everything from kindness, Giwan replied.
Ow!
We gain trust, friendship, loyalty. We gain the knowledge that we're building something better than what came before. When the Catherian rescue ships finally arrived, Valara had been with them. For 6 months, she had grown taller, stronger, but more than that, she had grown wiser. The scared, angry girl who had been pulled from a dying ship was gone, replaced by someone who asked thoughtful questions and offered help to others. As she prepared to leave, Valara took Jiwan aside for a private conversation. When I am truly of age, I will remember what you taught me, human, she promised. Your people showed me that there are many ways to be strong. I will not forget. Yuan watched her ship disappear into the darkness, wondering if he would ever see her again. He hoped that whatever waited for her among her own people, how she would hold on to the lessons she had learned about kindness, curiosity, and the strength that comes from choosing to help rather than harm. He never imagined that 7 years later, those lessons would change the fate of 2 entire civilizations. Ambassador Choi Yuna woke up to the sound of emergency alarms screaming through her quarters at the Earth's diplomatic station. On Luna, red lights flashed in the darkness as she rolled out of bed, her heart already racing. In her 5 years as Earth's chief diplomat, she had never heard the full alert sirens. They were reserved for only the most serious threats. She grabbed her communication device from the nightstand. The display showed dozens of urgent messages, but one caught her attention immediately. It was from Admiral Chen at Earth Defense Command, marked with the highest priority code. All senior staff report to Command Center immediately. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. Yuna dressed quickly and rushed through the corridors of the diplomatic station. Other staff members were hurrying in the same direction, their faces showing the same confusion and worry she felt. The command center was buzzing with activity when she arrived. Officers moved between workstations while massive displays showed tactical readouts and star charts. Admiral Chen stood at the center of it all, his face grim as he studied the main screen. When he saw Yuna approach, he motioned her over. "Ambassador, we have a situation. A large alien fleet has appeared at the edge of our solar system. They jumped in 3 hours ago without any warning." Yuna looked at the display and felt her breath catch in her throat. The screen showed dozens of ships arranged in perfect formation. They were larger than anything in Earth's fleet, dark and angular, like weapons made of shadow and metal. "What species?" she asked, though something in her stomach already knew the answer. "Catherian," Chen replied. "This isn't a diplomatic mission, Ambassador. This is a full battle fleet. Our sensors count 47 capital ships plus support vessels. It could destroy everything we've built without breaking a sweat." The Catherians had been a distant threat for years. Stories told by other alien races about fierce warriors who conquered everything in their path. Earth had hoped to avoid contact with them for as long as possible. They were here, and humanity was completely outmatched. "Have they made any demands?" Yuna asked. "That's the strange part. They sent a single message, and it doesn't make any sense." Chen pulled up a communication log on his screen. "They want to speak with the humans who sheltered the young one. They specifically requested Admiral Li Guwan, Dr. Park Minji, and Engineer Kim Doyan." Yuna frowned. Those names were familiar, but she couldn't place them immediately. "Who are these people?" Juan is retired now, living quietly on Jeju Island. He used to captain a patrol ship called the Harmony. Park is head of xenobiology at Seoul University. Kim runs the technical division for our Starfleet engineering corps. Chen paused. 7 years ago, they filed a report about rescuing an alien survivor, a young Catherian female. The pieces clicked together in Yuna's mind. She had read that report during her diplomatic training. It was considered a minor incident at the time, barely worth noting in the official records. Now it seemed that minor incident was about to determine humanity's fate. "Get them here immediately," she ordered. "All 3 of them. Use emergency transport if necessary." While they waited for the retired officers to arrive, Yuna studied everything Earth knew about Catherian culture. It wasn't much. They were a warrior society that valued strength above all else. They conquered other species and absorbed them into their empire. They had strict rules about honor and coming of age. Most importantly, they had never shown mercy to anyone they considered weak. Admiral Jiwan arrived first, looking confused and worried. He had aged well in retirement, though his hair was now completely gray. Dr. Park came next, still carrying the sharp intelligence that had made her one of Earth's leading experts on alien biology. Engineer Kim was the last to arrive. His uniform? Crisp, despite being pulled from his duties on short notice. "Admiral, do you remember the Catherian girl you rescued 7 years ago?" Una asked, without wasting time on pleasantries. Giwan nodded slowly. "Valara, we kept her for about 6 months. She was just a kid, cast out by her own people." "What does this have to do with the fleet outside our solar system?" Before Yuna could answer, the communication systems activated. A new message was coming through from the Catherian fleet. The main screen flickered, and then showed the interior of what was clearly an alien ship. The figure that appeared on screen was tall and imposing, wearing elaborate armor decorated with symbols that spoke of high rank. But despite the ceremonial dress and adult bearing, there was something familiar about the angular features and purple eyes. "I am War Prime Valara of the Catherian Empire," the figure announced in perfect English. "I request immediate audience with the humans who once offered shelter to an exile. Admiral Li Juan, Dr. Park Minji, Engineer Kim Doyan, I have come to speak with you." Juan stepped forward, his face showing recognition mixed with disbelief. "Valara, is that really you?" The alien on screen turned her attention directly to him. Something flickered across her expression, too quick to read. "Hello, Captain. Though I see you wear different symbols now. Have advanced in rank, as have I, your War Prime now?" Dr. Park asked, moving to stand beside Jiwan. "But you were so young when we knew you. I am no longer young, Doctor. I have completed my trials and proven my worth to the Empire. I command this fleet and many others." Valara's voice carried authority that hadn't been there before. I have achieved what my people said was impossible for a failed exile. Engineer Kim cleared his throat nervously. Valara, why are you here? Why bring so many ships? For the first time, something like emotion crossed Valara's face. I have come of age, human. And now we must discuss what your kindness has cost us both. The words sent a chill through the command center. Admiral Chen moved closer to Yuna and whispered, That doesn't sound good. You speak of cost, Giwan said carefully. What do you mean? Valara was quiet for a long moment, as if choosing her words carefully. When I returned to Catharian space 7 years ago, I was changed by my time among your people. I carried new ideas, new ways of thinking. These ideas have had consequences that reach far beyond what any of us expected. What kind of consequences? Dr. Park asked. The kind that start wars, Valara replied grimly. The kind that threaten to tear apart everything my people have built over thousands of years. Kind that put entire species at risk, Ambassador. Yuna felt her diplomatic training kick in despite her fear. Oh, Prime. Are you here to threaten Earth? To punish us for helping you? Valara looked directly at her, and for just a moment, Yuna saw something of the lost teenager that had once been rescued by these 3 humans. I am here because I need your help, Ambassador, but accepting that help may destroy both our peoples. Communication link went quiet. Around the command center, officers exchanged worried glances. The implications of Valara's words were sinking in. Somehow a simple act of kindness 7 years ago had created a crisis that now threatened to entire civilizations. She's grown up, Dr. Park said quietly, breaking the silence. Yes, Juan replied, his voice heavy with concern. But into what? Outside, the Catharian fleet continued to hold position at the edge of the solar system. 47 ships filled, with warriors, led by someone who had once been a frightened girl asking questions about why her people needed to hurt innocent colonists. Now she commanded enough firepower to reduce Earth to dust, and she was asking for help with something that could destroy them all. Yuna looked at the 3 people who had started this chain of events. With nothing more than basic human decency. They had saved one lost alien teenager, never imagining that their compassion would someday bring a fleet to their doorstep. Admiral Giwan, she said formally, I'm putting you in charge of this diplomatic contact. You know her better than anyone. Else Jiwan nodded, accepting the weight of responsibility. I'll try, Ambassador. But I have a feeling the girl we knew is gone. We're dealing with someone completely different now. Maybe, Dr. Park said thoughtfully. Or maybe she's exactly who she always had the potential to become. The question is whether that's a good thing or a very bad thing for all of us. As if, in response to her words, the communication system activated again. Valara's image appeared on screen, but this time her expression was unreadable. I will transport to your station in 1 hour, she announced. Come alone, and come prepared to hear truths that will change how you see the galaxy. What we discuss will determine whether humanity survives what I have become. The screen went dark, leaving Earth's leaders to wonder what kind of monster or savior they had helped create 7 years ago. The diplomatic quarters aboard Valara's flagship were nothing like Admiral Jiwan had expected. Instead of cold metal and weapons displays, the room was filled with comfortable furniture and soft lighting. Art from dozens of different worlds decorated the walls, showing landscapes and cultures from across the galaxy. It felt more like a scholar's study than a warrior's command center. Valara stood with her back to them, looking out a large window at the stars. She had removed her ceremonial armor and now wore simple robes that made her appear less intimidating. But when she turned to face the human delegation, her purple eyes held depths that hadn't been there 7 years ago. Please, sit, she said, gesturing to chairs arranged in a circle. What I have to tell you will take some time. Guan sat across from her, flanked by Dr. Park and Engineer Kim. Ambassador Yuna had joined them, along with 2 other Earth diplomats. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut. You said our kindness had consequences, Dr. Park began gently. What did you mean? Valara was quiet for a moment, choosing her words carefully. When I returned to Catharian space 7 years ago, I was different. The scared, angry girl who had been cast out was gone. In her place was someone who asked questions, who wondered if there might be better ways to do things. She moved to a wall display that showed star charts covering vast regions of space. Red markers indicated Catherian territory, which stretched across hundreds of systems. I was assigned to a minor position in the Outer Fleet, commanding a single ship with a crew that didn't trust me. My first mission was to subdue a small mining world that had stopped sending tribute to the Empire. Giwan felt his stomach tighten. What happened? I arrived at the world expecting to find rebels who needed to be crushed. Instead, I found a people who were starving because our tribute demands had taken all their food. Their children were dying. Their elderly were weak from hunger. The traditional Catherian response would have been to make an example of them, to show others what happened to those who failed their obligations. Valara touched one of the red markers on the star chart. But I remembered what you taught me about asking questions. I wondered why we needed these people to die. What did the Empire really gain from their suffering? So what did you do? Engineer Kim asked. I negotiated. Instead of punishment, I offered them a new arrangement. They would provide minerals and rare metals, but we would ensure they had enough food and medicine for their people. I suggested that healthy, willing workers would be more productive than starving, frightened ones. Dr. Park leaned forward with interest. And it worked? Better than anyone expected? Within 6 months, their production had doubled. Other worlds in the sector began requesting similar arrangements. My superiors noticed the increased efficiency and gave me command of more ships, more territory. Valara moved to another section of the star chart, indicating a much larger area marked in blue. I applied the same principles everywhere I was. Sent. Instead of ruling through fear alone, I offered partnership. Instead of taking everything, I made sure the conquered peoples had what they needed to thrive. Instead of crushing all resistance, I listened to complaints and found solutions. That sounds wonderful, Ambassador Yuna said. Why is this a problem? Valara's expression darkened. Because it worked too well. My territories became the most productive in the Empire. My fleets grew larger and more loyal. Other war primes began copying my methods, seeing the results they produced. She touched to control, and the display changed to show the entire Catherian Empire.
How do you?
It's divided between those who follow the old ways and those who have adopted what they call the new path. The traditionalists say, I have corrupted our culture with alien weakness. They claim that showing mercy makes us soft, that negotiating, instead of conquering, will destroy everything that makes us Catherian. Giwan began to understand the scope of the problem. There is going to be a civil war. There already is one, though most fighting has been political so far. War Prime Thakran leads the traditionalists. He was my mentor when I first returned from exile, the one who gave me a chance to prove myself. Now he sees me as his greatest enemy. Letta returned to her seat, and for the first time since they had arrived, she looked tired. Thakran has declared me corrupted by human influence. He claims that helping me was part of a human plot to weaken the Empire from within. He's building alliances with other species who fear what my new path might mean for the galaxy.
What?
Other species? Dr. Park asked with concern. The Zoltan Hegemony, the Kra Collective, the 10th Ring Pirates, all groups that profit from the chaos and suffering that traditional Catherian conquest creates. They see my methods as a threat to their way of life. Engineer Kim whistled softly. How many ships does Thakran command? More than I do, currently. But that could change. Many Catherians are tired of endless war, tired of seeing their children die in pointless battles for glory. The new path offers them something different. A way to expand our influence without constant bloodshed. Ambassador Yuna leaned forward. Valara, why are you telling us this? What do you want from Earth? Valara met her eyes directly. I need your help. But accepting it will prove everything Thakran has said about human corruption. It will give him the justification he needs to launch a full assault on both our peoples. What kind of help? Juan asked quietly. Military advisors? Diplomatic? Support. Most importantly, I need you to help me prove that cooperation is stronger than conquest. The other species in the galaxy are watching this conflict. If the traditionalists win, it will set back interstellar relations by centuries. I win, but only through human assistance. It will validate claims that the new path is foreign contamination. Dr. Park considered this carefully. What you're really asking for is legitimacy. You want us to help you show that your way works without making it look like a human idea? Exactly. Learn these concepts from you, but I need to prove they can work within Catherian culture. They make us stronger, not weaker. The room fell silent as the humans absorbed the full scope of the crisis. A simple act of kindness had somehow triggered a civil war in one of the galaxy's most powerful empires. There's something else, Valara added quietly. The crone has made contact with Earth's command. He's offered humanity a deal. Kinda. Dio? Yuna asked, though her tone suggested she already feared the answer. Complete neutrality. If Earth refuses to help me and publicly denounces my methods as foreign corruption, he will guarantee that humanity remains untouched by the coming war. You would be free to develop in peace while the rest of the galaxy burns. Juan felt anger rising in his chest. And if we refuse his offer, then Earth becomes a legitimate military target. The Kron will claim that humanity is an active threat to Catherian purity. He'll have the support of multiple alien species who want to see you eliminated anyway. The implications hung heavy in the air. Earth faced an impossible choice between abandoning the values that had saved Valara in the first place or risking complete destruction. How long do we have? Ambassador Yuna asked. Not long. Thakran is gathering his fleets for what he calls the final purification. He plans to eliminate both human and new path influence from the galaxy in a single campaign. My intelligence suggests he will move within weeks. Dr. Park looked at her old friends. We saved one lost girl 7 years ago. Now, we have to decide if we're willing to risk everything to save the principles she learned from us. Valara stood and walked back to the window. Her reflection showed a young woman carrying the weight of 2 civilizations on her shoulders. Understand if you choose safety, she said without turning around. I cannot ask humanity to die for ideals I learned in childhood. But I had to come here, had to give you the choice. You taught me that sometimes doing the right thing is more important than doing the safe thing. She turned back to face them, and Jiwan saw something familiar in her expression. For just a moment, she looked like the frightened girl they had. Rescued all those years ago, whatever you decide, I want you to know that the months I spent with your crew were the most important of my life. You showed me that there were other ways to be strong. Now I have to find out if that strength is enough to save us all. The emergency session of the Earth Council had been going for 6 hours, and tempers were running high. President Song Haiwan sat at the head of the massive conference table in Geneva, watching as humanity's leaders argued over the most important decision in their species' history. We cannot risk everything for one alien civil war, declared General Park Tae-yoon, head of Earth's military forces. My analysts confirmed that even Valara's fleet alone could destroy every major city on Earth. If we help her, and she loses, we face genocide from the traditionalists. Admiral Juan stood at the presentation screen, his face tired but determined. With respect, General, this isn't just about one alien. This is about the kind of species we want to be, Valara learned. Her values from us. Are we going to abandon those values now when they might actually make a difference? Values don't stop plasma cannons, snapped Defense Minister Kim Young-soo. We're talking about 47 Catherian capital ships, plus whatever allies this Thakran has gathered? Our entire fleet is maybe 20 ships, and most of those are exploration vessels with light weapons. Dr. Park Min-ji stood up from her seat near the middle of the table. You're all missing the point. This isn't about military strength. It's about showing the galaxy that there are alternatives to endless war. Easy words from someone who won't be on the front lines, muttered Admiral Chen. My crews will be the ones dying if this goes wrong. President Song raised her hand for silence. The room gradually quieted, though the tension remained thick in the air. Let's review what we know, Dr. Park. Tell us again about Valara's psychological profile. Dr. Park activated her tablet and displayed her notes on the main screen. When we knew her 7 years ago, Valara was essentially an adolescent going through an identity crisis. She was caught between her birth culture and the new ideas she encountered with us. What we're seeing now is the result of that internal conflict. Meaning what exactly? Asked Foreign Minister Lee Subin. Meaning she's still finding herself, but on a much larger scale. She's trying to reconcile Catherian warrior culture with human concepts of cooperation and mercy. The problem is that her entire species is being forced to make the same choice. Engineer Kim Do-yeon, who had been quiet through most of the session, finally spoke up. I've been thinking about this from a technical perspective. Valara's new path isn't just about being nice to conquered peoples, it's about efficiency. She's proving that cooperation produces better results than oppression. Explain. President Song requested Kim move to the display and pulled up economic data. Look at the production figures from Valara's territories compared to traditional Catherian regions. Food production is up 60%. Mineral extraction has doubled. Technology development has increased by 300%. Her methods work better because people want to help instead of being forced to. But that's exactly why the traditionalists see her as a threat, Admiral Jiwan added. If the new path proves more effective than traditional conquest, it undermines everything their culture is built on. General Park leaned forward aggressively. None of this changes the fact that we're completely outgunned. Even if we wanted to help, what could we possibly do? Dr. Park stood again, her eyes bright with sudden inspiration. What if we're approaching this wrong? What if the solution isn't military at all? What do you mean? President Song asked. Think about what made Valara different. It wasn't our weapons or our technology. It was our ideas, our way of thinking about problems. What if instead of choosing between helping her militarily or abandoning her completely, we offered something else? The room fell silent as everyone waited for her to continue. What if we proposed a completely different way to resolve this conflict? Something that neither side has considered. Foreign Minister Lee frowned. Like what? Dr. Park began pacing as her ideas took shape. Valara's problem is that she needs to prove the new path works without looking like she's been corrupted by human influence. The Kron's problem is that he's afraid his culture is being destroyed by foreign ideas. What if we could address both concerns at once? You're talking in circles, General Park complained. What specific action are you suggesting? A formal debate, Dr. Park announced. Instead of a civil war, we propose that both sides present their vision for Catherian society to a neutral jury of other alien species. The room erupted in shocked laughter and angry protests. Admiral Chen slammed his hand on the table. You want to solve an interstellar war with a debate? This is real life, not a university classroom. But President Song held up her hand again, her expression thoughtful. Let her finish. Dr. Park nodded gratefully. Think about it from the Catherian perspective. Their entire culture is built around trials and tests of worthiness. What if we reframe this conflict as the ultimate trial? Both Valara and Thakran would have to prove their vision is stronger through words and evidence instead of violence. The traditionalists would never agree to that. Foreign Minister Lee objected. It goes against everything they believe about settling disputes through strength. Actually, it doesn't, Engineer Kim said slowly, catching on to Dr. Park's idea. Catherians respect intellectual strength as much as physical strength. Leaders have to prove they can outthink enemies, not just outfight them. A formal debate would still be a test of worthiness. Admiral Guwan began nodding, and it would give Valara what she needs. If she wins through Catherian methods, it proves the new path isn't foreign corruption. It's just a better way of being Catherian. What about the neutral jury? Asked Defense Minister Kim. Who would judge such a debate? Representatives from every major species in the galaxy, Dr. Park replied, including ones that don't like either humans or Catherians, if they choose. Valara's vision, no one can claim the results were biased. General Park was shaking his head. This is insane. You're asking us to bet humanity's survival on a talking contest? No, President Song said quietly. They're asking us to bet on the power of our ideas. The same ideas that changed Valara in the first place. Debate continued for another 2 hours, but gradually the room began to shift toward Dr. Park's proposal. It was risky, but it offered something that military action couldn't. A chance to prove that human values could work on a galactic scale. Finally, President Song called for a vote. All in favor of proposing a formal debate to resolve the Catherian civil war. Hands rose around the table. Not all of them, but enough. Motion carried, President Song announced. Dr. Park, you'll lead the team to design the debate format. Engineer Kim, start working on creating a neutral venue. Admiral Guan, you'll present the proposal to Valara. As the council members filed out, Admiral Guan approached Dr. Park. Do you really think this will work? She looked at him with a mixture of hope and fear. I think it's the most human solution we could offer. Instead of trying to win through force, we're trying to win through understanding. It's what we taught Valara 7 years ago, and if it fails, Dr. Park was quiet. For a moment, then we'll have failed trying to be the best version of ourselves. That's better than surviving by becoming something we don't recognize. Outside the conference room, President Song stood at a window looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, Valara was waiting for humanity's answer. A young woman who had learned human values was asking her teachers to stand by those values when it mattered most. The easy choice would be to accept Thakran's offer of neutrality, to let the galaxy burn while Earth remained safe. But as Dr. Park had said, that would mean becoming something they didn't recognize. President Song picked up her communication device and sent a message to Admiral Giwan. Tell Valara we accept her challenge, but we're going to solve it the human way. The next phase of the crisis was about to begin, and humanity had chosen to bet everything on the power of their ideas. The same ideas that had once saved a lost alien girl might now save 2 entire civilizations, or destroy them both. The reaction from War Prime Thakran was exactly what Admiral G1 had expected. Pure rage followed by disbelieving laughter. The traditionalist leader's image filled the communication screen aboard Valara's flagship, his scarred face twisted with contempt. A debate? The Kron's voice carried the kind of fury that had conquered star systems. You dare suggest that warriors settle their differences with words like weak-minded scholars? This proves everything I have said about human corruption. Alada sat calmly beside Juwan, her expression unreadable. War Prime Thakran, surely you do not fear a battle of minds. Have our people not always valued intelligence as much as strength? Do not lecture me about our ways, corrupted one. You have forgotten what it means to be Catherian. Dr. Park leaned forward from her position at the conference table. War Prime, consider what this debate would prove. If your traditional methods are truly superior, surely you can demonstrate that superiority through argument and evidence. What does the Empire gain by civil war, compared to unified purpose? Thakran's eyes narrowed dangerously. The Empire gains purity, the elimination of weakness and foreign influence. We gain the return of our true nature. But at what cost? Engineer Kim asked quietly. How many Catherian ships will be destroyed? How many warriors will die fighting other warriors? Instead of expanding the Empire, for a moment, something flickered across Thakran's face. Uncertainty, perhaps, or the first hint that the humans might have a point. But it passed quickly, replaced by renewed anger. You speak of costs while planning to poison our entire species with your soft philosophies. I will not be party to this mockery. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the conference room in tense silence. That went well, Engineer Kim said dryly. Actually, it did, Valara replied, surprising them all. Did you see his hesitation when you mentioned the cost in Catherian lives? Thakran is a traditionalist, but he's not a fool. He knows that civil war will weaken the Empire regardless of who wins. Over the following days, messages flew between fleets, planets, and species across the galaxy. Dr. Park worked tirelessly to design a debate format that would satisfy Catherian honor while remaining Fair to both sides. Engineer Kim coordinated with construction teams from a dozen different worlds to build a neutral space station where the debate could take place. The breakthrough came when Matriarch Zara of the Alteran Republic agreed to serve as the primary mediator. The Alterans were respected throughout the galaxy for their wisdom and neutrality. Their endorsement of the debate format gave it legitimacy that even traditional Catharians couldn't easily dismiss. The proposal has merit, Matriarch Zara announced during a galaxy-wide broadcast. Both sides claim to represent the true future of the Catharian Empire. Let them prove their claims through the oldest form of combat, the battle of ideas. More species began to support the proposal. The Centauri Alliance saw it as a chance to avoid a devastating war that would disrupt trade routes. The new Geneva colonies hoped it might establish precedents for peaceful conflict resolution. Even some traditionally aggressive species found the idea intriguing, but not everyone was pleased with the developments. Intelligence reports reached Earth about secret meetings between Thakron's faction and other hostile groups. The Zoltan hegemony was particularly active, seeing an opportunity to eliminate both human and progressive Catharian influence from the galaxy. They're planning something, Admiral Chen reported during a secure briefing with Earth's leadership. Our sources indicate that several pirate fleets have been hired by unknown parties. They're positioning themselves near the proposed debate location. President Song studied the tactical displays with growing concern. How many ships are we talking about? At least 60? Possibly more? Mixed fleet composition, but heavily armed? If they attack during the debate, they could eliminate Valara's progressive faction and blame it on human treachery. Dr. Park felt. Her stomach tightened. That would give Thakron everything he wanted. Proof that humans were planning to betray the Catharians all along. We need more security, General Park declared. I recommend postponing the debate until we can guarantee safety. No, Valara said firmly. She had been present for the briefing via secure communication. Postponement would be seen as weakness. Our supporters are already questioning whether the new path can protect them. If we delay now, many will switch sides to Thakron. Admiral Juan studied the star charts showing the positions of various fleets. What if we turn this threat into an opportunity? Explained President Song requested. The pirates and hostile species are planning to attack during the debate. They expect us to be focused on words while they use weapons. What if we're ready for them? Engineer Kim began to understand. You want to use the debate as bait. Draw all the hostile forces to one location where we can deal with them at once. Exactly. But more than that. If we can prove that the New Path supporters and their human allies can work together to defend the debate, it demonstrates everything Valara has been arguing. Cooperation defeating aggression. Dr. Park was nodding enthusiastically. It's perfect. The debate becomes a real trial by combat, just not the kind anyone expected, but Valara looked troubled. The risk is enormous. If we fail, if the attack succeeds, it proves Thakron right about human weakness and corruption. The new path dies with all of us. Then we don't fail, Admiral Juan said simply. We do what humans do best, find a way to protect something. Worth protecting? The next week was a frenzy of preparation. The neutral space station, named Harmony Station in honor of Jiwan's old ship, took shape near the Galactic rim. Representatives from 43 different species confirmed their attendance as judges and observers. Meanwhile, military preparations proceeded in secret. Valara's progressive fleets took positions that appeared defensive but could quickly become offensive if needed. Earth's small but advanced fleet moved into supporting positions. Most importantly, intelligence networks worked to identify exactly which groups were planning to disrupt the debate. 3 days before the scheduled event, Thakron finally agreed to participate. His message was brief and formal. I will attend. This mockery to demonstrate the superiority of traditional Catharian values? When words fail as they must, perhaps the corrupted ones will remember what true strength means. But intelligence reports suggested that Thakron might not be planning to rely only on words. Several of his most aggressive supporters had been meeting with mercenary groups and pirate fleets. It appeared that multiple factions were preparing for the debate to become something much more violent. On the eve of the Great Debate, Giwan stood in the observation deck of Harmony Station, looking out at the assembled fleets. Ships from dozens of species floated in carefully neutral formations, their representatives preparing to witness what might become the most important diplomatic event in galactic history. Dr. Park joined him at the window. "Are you nervous? Terrified?" he admitted. 7 years ago, we saved one lost girl because it was the right thing to do. Now we're betting 2 civilizations on the idea that doing the right thing actually matters. "It does matter," she replied firmly. "Look out there. All those different species, all those different perspectives coming together to try something new." That's what Valara learned from us. That there are always alternatives to violence if you're brave enough to try them. Engineer Kim approached from behind them. "Final systems check is complete. The debate chamber is ready, the communication networks are operational, and our defensive systems are standing by." "How long until it begins?" Juan asked. 6 hours. Representatives are already boarding the station. This is really happening. If summoned by his words, Valara appeared in the observation area. She wore formal robes that combined traditional Catharian symbols with new designs representing the species that had joined her alliance. She looked confident, but Jiwan could see the weight of responsibility in her purple eyes. "You ready for this?" he asked her. Valara looked out at the assembled fleets, then back at the humans who had changed her life. "I am ready to find out if what you taught me was strong enough to change the galaxy, and if it's not." She smiled, and for a moment she looked like the curious teenager they had once known. "Then we'll have tried something beautiful, even if it was brief." Outside, unknown to most of the assembled delegates, hostile fleets were moving into position. The greatest test of human ideals was about to begin, and it would be decided by both words and weapons before the day was done. The great debate chamber aboard Harmony Station was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Representatives from 51 different species sat in carefully arranged sections, their diverse forms creating a living symbol of galactic unity. At the center of the chamber, 2 podiums faced each other across a circular stage. Warprime Thakran stood at one podium, his traditional armor gleaming under the lights. Every inch of him spoke of old Catharian values, strength, conquest, unwavering certainty. Across from him, Valara wore robes that told a different story. The fabric contained threads from dozens of worlds, symbols of the species that had joined. Her new path alliance, Matriarch Zara of the Alteran Republic, served as moderator, her ancient voice carrying the authority of centuries of wisdom. Today we witness something new in galactic history. 2 visions for the future, presented not through warfare, but through the power of ideas. Admiral Guan watched from the observation gallery alongside Dr. Park and Engineer Kim. In his earpiece, could hear constant updates from the defensive fleet positions. The hostile forces were moving closer, waiting for the right moment to strike. "The traditional way has served our people for 3,000 years, Thakran began, his voice carrying the confidence of absolute belief. "We are warriors. We take what we need when we need it. Expand through strength and maintain order through fear. This is the Catharian way." Many species in the audience nodded their approval. The galaxy had known the Catharians as predictable conquerors for generations. There was comfort in that predictability, even for those who suffered under it. But what has this traditional way actually achieved? Valara countered when her turn came. "Yes, we have expanded our territory, but at what cost? How many resources have been wasted on rebellions? How much potential has been lost when we destroyed civilizations instead of learning from them?" She activated a display showing production figures from across Catharian space. "My territories produce twice as much food, 3 times as many technological innovations, and require half as many garrison forces as traditional regions. This is not weakness. This is efficiency." Thakran's response was swift and angry. "Numbers mean nothing if they come from corrupted sources. You speak of efficiency while forgetting honor. You celebrate production while ignoring the warrior spirit. That made our people great." "I celebrate results," Valara replied calmly. "A hungry warrior cannot fight effectively." A terrified population cannot innovate. A civilization built only on fear will eventually collapse from within. The debate continued for hours, with each side presenting evidence and arguments. Thakran spoke of glorious battles and the purity of traditional values, Valara demonstrated. How cooperation had strengthened her territories and created lasting alliances, but Admiral Juwan knew that words alone would not decide this conflict. In his earpiece, he heard the update he had been dreading. "Admiral, we have incoming hostiles. 63 ships, mixed fleet composition. They're moving to attack the station." He signaled quietly to Dr. Park and Engineer Kim. The moment they had prepared for was arriving in the debate chamber. The attack began with a series of explosions that shook the entire station. Emergency lights flashed as the assembled representatives looked around in confusion and fear. "This is exactly what I predicted," Thakran declared triumphantly. "Human treachery. They lure us here with talk of peace while their allies attack us." But Valara was already moving to a communication panel. "All new path and allied fleets. Defensive positions. Protect the station and the representatives. Show the galaxy what cooperation looks like." The battle that followed was unlike any in galactic history. Instead of each species fighting for itself, the New Path Alliance worked as a coordinated force. Human ships provided technical support and tactical coordination. All Terran vessels used their advanced shields to protect damaged allies. Centauri fast attack ships harassed the enemy while Catharian heavy cruisers delivered devastating firepower. On the observation deck, Admiral Guan coordinated the defense while the debate continued below. Engineering teams to Section 7. Medical teams to Deck 12. All civilian representatives to emergency shelters. Dr. Park was working at a medical station, treating wounded representatives from various species. This is what Valara meant. She called out over the noise of battle. When different peoples work together, everyone benefits. In the debate chamber, chaos had given way to something remarkable. Instead of fleeing, many of the representative species had remained to help with emergency repairs and aid wounded colleagues. The Zoltan delegates, who had originally supported the attack, found themselves being rescued by the same Catharian progressives they had tried to destroy. "Look around you, Warprime," Thakran Valara said, her voice carrying over the sounds of battle. "What do you see?" Thakran stood frozen, watching as species that had been enemies for centuries worked side by side to save lives and protect the station. A Kra engineer was helping repair human life support systems. Alteran medics were treating wounded Catharian traditionalists. Even some of Thakron's own officers were working alongside their supposed enemies. "I see confusion," he said, but his voice lacked its earlier conviction. "I see the future," Valara replied. "I see what happens when we choose cooperation over conquest, when we build bridges instead of walls." The battle outside was turning in favor of the defenders. The attacking fleets, expecting to face divided opponents, found themselves outmaneuvered. By coordinated tactics and superior coordination, one by one pirate ships began withdrawing as their hired allies abandoned the failing assault. Engineer Kim's voice came through the communication system. "Station integrity restored. All hostile forces have been repelled or destroyed. The debate can continue." But the debate was already over. The jury of galactic representatives had seen everything they needed to see. When Matriarch Zara called for their decision, the result was overwhelming. "We declare both visions valid for their respective peoples," she announced. "But we recognize the superior effectiveness of the new path in creating lasting alliances and mutual prosperity. The Catharian Empire may split peacefully, with each faction governing according to its chosen principles." Thakran stood silent for a long moment, then slowly removed his traditional war helmet. "Perhaps," he said quietly, "there is wisdom in allowing different paths to exist." After the formal ceremonies ended, Admiral Juwan found Valara standing alone in the observation deck, looking out at the ships of the New Path Alliance as they prepared to return to their home worlds. "How do you feel?" he asked her. She replied thoughtfully. "When I was young, I thought becoming an adult meant choosing between my birth culture and the things you taught me. Today I learned that true maturity means finding a way to honor both." Dr. Park and Engineer Kim joined them at the window. "What happens now?" Dr. Park asked. Now we build something new, Valera said. The galaxy has seen that cooperation can defeat aggression, that different peoples can work together for mutual benefit. Some will reject this lesson, but others will embrace it. She turned to face the three humans who had started her journey. 7 years ago, you taught a frightened child that there are many ways to be strong. Today, that child became an adult who can teach the galaxy the same lesson. Months later, the changes were visible throughout known space. The New Path territories continued to prosper while maintaining their distinct cultural identities. Traditional, Catherian space remained under Thakron's rule, but even there, some progressive policies were quietly adopted. Most importantly, humanity had found its place in the galactic community, not as conquerors or victims, but as teachers and mediators. Species that had never spoken to each other began exchanging ideas and resources. The galaxy remained a dangerous place, but it was no longer a hopeless one. Admiral Jawan, now retired, again, often visited the memorial built on Harmony Station. It honored all those who had died in the battle. But its central message was simple. Sometimes the greatest strength is knowing when not to fight. The frightened alien girl they had rescued 7 years ago had grown into a leader who changed the fate of civilizations. In doing so, she had proven that human values of compassion, curiosity, and cooperation were not weaknesses to be discarded, but strengths to be shared with the stars.